When a dog wags its tail, most people think they already know what it means. Happy, friendly, safe to approach. So they smile, move closer, and never look at the rest of the dog. But that is where the mistake begins. Because a wagging tail is not a promise that a dog feels good. It is only one signal. And if you read that signal by itself, you can miss everything the body is trying to tell you. In this video, we are going to look at why tail wagging does not always mean happiness, and why the real meaning often depends on what happens around the tail, the face, the ears, the body tension, the distance, the situation. Because sometimes, a wagging tail belongs to a relaxed dog, but sometimes, it belongs to a dog that is uncertain, overstimulated, conflicted, or not as comfortable as people think. And once you learn to read the whole dog, a wagging tail stops being a simple sign of happiness. It becomes a clue most people have been reading too fast. The first mistake people make is not that they notice the tail. Of course they notice the tail. The tail is obvious. It moves. It catches your eye. It feels like the easiest part of the dog to understand. A dog walks toward you, the tail starts moving, and your brain fills in the meaning before you even think about it. He's happy. She likes me. This dog is friendly. And sometimes, that may be true. There are plenty of moments where a wagging tail does come with joy, excitement, and comfort. When your own dog runs to the door after you come home, loose body, soft face, relaxed mouth, wiggling hips, that tail is probably part of a happy greeting. But the problem begins when people take that one familiar version and apply it to every dog, in every situation. They stop reading, they see the tail, and they think the conversation is already over. But in dog body language, the tail is not the whole conversation. It is only one part of it. A dog does not communicate with the tail alone. A dog communicates with the whole body. The eyes, the ears, the mouth, the shoulders, the spine, the way the weight shifts forward or backward, the way the dog holds distance, the way the body softens, stiffens, curves, freezes, leans in, or pulls away. All of that matters. And if you only look at the tail, you are doing something very similar to reading one word from a sentence and assuming you understood the entire message. That one word may be important, but it is not enough. Imagine someone smiling while their shoulders are tight, their jaw is clenched, and they are slowly stepping away from you. If you only looked at the smile, you might say, "They're fine." But if you looked at the whole person, you would know something is off. Dogs are different from people, but the principle is similar. One signal does not explain the whole emotional state. The tail may be moving, but what is the rest of the dog doing? Is the body loose or stiff? Is the dog moving toward you freely or holding back? Is the mouth soft or tightly closed? Are the ears relaxed or pulled back? Are the eyes soft or hard and fixed? Is the dog choosing to come closer, or is the dog trapped in a situation where it cannot easily move away? These questions matter because tail wagging can happen in more than one emotional state. It can appear with happiness, but it can also appear with tension. It can appear with curiosity. It can appear with uncertainty. It can appear when a dog is excited, but not necessarily comfortable. It can appear when a dog is trying to figure out what is happening next. And that is why the first real lesson is simple. Do not read the tail before you read the dog, because the tail is usually the part people notice first, but it should not be the part they stop at. When people say, "But the dog was wagging its tail," what they often mean is, "I saw one signal, and I trusted it too much." They did not see the stiff body. They did not see the closed mouth. They did not see the dog leaning away. They did not see the pause before the dog moved. They did not see the tension around the face. They did not see that the dog was not actually relaxed. They only saw movement. And movement can be misleading when it is separated from the body that is making it. That is the part many people miss. A wagging tail does not automatically tell you, "This dog is happy." It tells you, "This dog is emotionally activated in some way." Something has the dog's attention. Something is happening inside the dog. But the tail alone does not tell you what that something is. To understand that, you need the rest of the picture. You need to ask what kind of body is attached to that wagging tail. A soft body changes the meaning. A stiff body changes the meaning. A dog that curves toward you changes the meaning. A dog that stands tall and still changes the meaning. A dog that wiggles from the shoulders back is not the same as a dog whose tail moves, while the rest of the body stays tight. This is where most people begin to read dogs more accurately, not by ignoring the tail, but by refusing to let the tail be the only thing they see, because the tail can be part of happiness, but it can also be part of pressure, part of hesitation, part of conflict, part of anticipation, part of a dog trying to decide whether to move closer, stay still, or back away. And if you rush in before reading those other signals, you may respond to the dog you imagined, not the dog in front of you. That is the real mistake. Not seeing the tail. Stopping at the tail. Because once you stop at the tail, you stop asking the better question. Not, is the tail wagging? But, what is the whole dog saying while the tail is wagging? That question changes everything. It slows you down. It makes you look again. It helps you notice the signals that were there the entire time. And it turns tail wagging from a simple label into something much more useful. A starting point, not the answer. So before we talk about different kinds of tail wags, speed, stiffness, body tension, and context, remember this first rule. The tail may be the easiest thing to see, but it is rarely enough to understand the dog. The next mistake is thinking that every wag belongs in the same category. Most people use one word for it, wagging, but not every wag looks the same. And more importantly, not every wag feels the same when you look at the whole dog. Some tail wags are wide and loose. The tail moves with the hips. The body curves. The dog's face is soft. The mouth may be relaxed. The movement seems to travel through the whole back half of the dog. That kind of wag often feels open, easy, and social. But then there are other tail wags that look very different. Short, fast, tight, high, stiff. The tail may be moving, but the rest of the dog is not loose at all. The body is still. The legs are planted. The mouth is closed. The face is tense. The eyes are focused. And when you see that, you are no longer looking at the same kind of message. You are looking at a dog whose tail is moving while the rest of the body is holding tension. That difference matters, because tail wagging is not a single emotion. It is a signal that changes depending on how it appears. Speed matters. Height matters. Stiffness matters. How much of the body is involved matters. A slow, loose wag is not the same as a quick, tight wag. A low, uncertain wag is not the same as a high, stiff wag. A full body wiggle is not the same as a tail moving while the shoulders stay locked. And this is where many people read too quickly. They do not see the quality of the wag. They only see that the tail is moving, so they put every version into the same box. Happy, friendly, safe. But dogs do not communicate in boxes that simple. A wag can be part of a greeting. A wag can be part of excitement. A wag can be part of tension. A wag can be part of uncertainty. A wag can be part of a dog trying to process too much at once. The movement alone does not tell you which one it is. The movement only tells you that something is happening. And to understand what that something is, you have to look at the kind of movement, not just whether the tail is moving. This is especially important with fast wagging, because fast is one of the easiest things to misunderstand. When people see a tail moving quickly, they often think the meaning becomes even clearer. They think, the faster the tail moves, the happier the dog must be. But that is not always true. Fast does not always mean happy. Sometimes fast simply means activated. The dog's nervous system is awake. The dog is alert. Something has triggered interest, anticipation, conflict, pressure, or excitement. And excitement does not always mean comfort. That is an important difference. A dog can be highly excited and still not feel safe. A dog can be intensely interested and still be unsure. A dog can want to move closer and still feel nervous. A dog can wag quickly because the moment is emotionally charged, not because the dog is relaxed. Think about a dog meeting a stranger. The stranger bends down, reaches out a hand, and talks in a high voice. The dog's tail starts moving. To the person, that may look like an invitation. But look again. Is the dog's body moving forward freely? Or is only the tail moving? Is the dog's back soft? Or is the dog standing stiff? Is the dog's mouth open and relaxed? Or is the mouth closed tight? Are the ears neutral? Or are they pulled back? Is the dog choosing to come close? Or is the dog staying in place because the person has already entered its space? Those details can change the meaning completely. A fast wag in a loose, wiggly dog may be happy excitement. A fast wag in a stiff, still dog may be a very different kind of arousal. That dog may be unsure. The dog may be conflicted. The dog may be trying to decide what to do. And if the person only sees the fast tail, they may move closer at the exact moment the dog needs more space. This is why arousal is such an important word to understand. Arousal does not automatically mean joy. It means the dog is activated. The body is switched on. The dog is responding to something. That response can be positive, but it can also be tense. It can be playful, but it can also be stressful. It can be curiosity, but it can also be pressure. So when you see a fast wag, the right question is not, is this dog happy? The better question is, what kind of activation am I looking at? Is the dog loose and social? Or tight and uncertain? Is the dog moving in a smooth, curved way? Or holding still while the tail moves? Is the dog creating connection? Or trying to manage pressure? This is how you begin to read beyond the simple version. You stop treating speed like proof of happiness, and you start treating speed like a clue that something inside the dog has become more intense. That one shift can prevent a lot of misunderstanding, because many people do not get into trouble by ignoring the tail. They get into trouble by trusting the tail too much, especially when it is moving fast. They assume the speed gives them permission. Permission to reach. Permission to lean over. Permission to touch. Permission to move closer. But a dog's body may be saying something else. And that brings us to the most important rule in this part of the video. The body around the tail decides the meaning, not the tail alone. If you want to know what a wag really means, look at what the rest of the dog is doing at the same time. Start with the face. A relaxed dog often has a softer face. The eyes may look gentle. The mouth may be open or loose. The muscles around the muzzle do not look tight. But if the face looks hard, still, or tense, the wag needs to be read more carefully. A dog can wag its tail while the face says, I am not comfortable yet. Then, look at the ears. Ears can be tricky because breeds are different. Some dogs have upright ears. Some have floppy ears. Some have ears that are harder to read. But even then, you can often notice change. Are the ears relaxed in their normal position? Or are they pinned back? Are they sharply forward? Are they moving in a way that suggests the dog is tracking something? Ears alone are not the answer either, but they add information. Then look at the mouth. A soft, relaxed mouth often changes the feeling of the whole body. But a tightly closed mouth can be a sign that the dog has become more serious, focused, or tense. If the dog was relaxed a second ago, and suddenly the mouth closes, that shift matters. The tail may still be moving, but the rest of the dog may have changed. Then look at the body. This may be the most important part. Is the body loose? Does the dog look bendy, curved, and fluid? Or does the dog look stiff, straight, and still? A loose dog often moves as a whole. The tail, hips, shoulders, and head all seem connected. But in a stiff dog, the tail may move, while the rest of the body barely changes. That is a very different picture. Then look at the weight. Is the dog leaning forward? Leaning back? Frozen in the middle? Is the dog trying to get closer? Or trying to keep distance? A dog that is wagging while shifting weight backward may not be sending the same message as a dog that is wagging while happily moving toward you with a loose body. Distance matters too. A dog that wants contact will often show that through the whole body, not just the tail. It may curve in, approach softly, stay loose, offer proximity without stiffness. But a dog that is uncertain may wag while staying just out of reach, or wag while backing away, or wag while turning the head aside, or wag while freezing as someone reaches in. That is why you never want to ask only, is the tail moving? You want to ask, is the dog choosing closeness or tolerating closeness? Those are not the same thing. A dog can stand near a person because it wants to, but a dog can also stand near a person because it feels trapped, pressured, or unsure how to leave. And if the tail is wagging in both situations, only the rest of the body tells you the difference. This is also why a wagging tail should not be treated like automatic consent. A dog may wag while being touched, but that does not always mean the dog wants the touch to continue. You have to watch what happens after the touch begins. Does the dog lean in? Stay soft? Re-engage when you stop? Or does the dog turn away? Go still? Close the mouth? Lick the lips? Lean back? Look for an exit? The tail may still be moving, but the body may be saying, I need space. This is where reading the whole dog becomes more respectful, because you stop forcing one meaning onto one signal. You You allow the dog's body to complete the sentence. And when you do that, the same tail wag can suddenly look completely different. In one dog, the wag belongs to softness. In another, it belongs to tension. In one moment, it belongs to greeting. In another, it belongs to uncertainty. In one context, it says, "I am happy to see you." In another, it may say, "I am not sure what to do with this." The tail did not lie. You just needed the rest of the information. That is the point. A wagging tail is not useless. It is not something to ignore. It is not a trick. It is a clue. But clues only work when you connect them to the rest of the scene. So before you decide what the tail means, scan the whole dog. Look at the face. Look at the ears. Look at the mouth. Look at the shoulders. Look at the spine. Look at the weight. Look at whether the dog is soft or stiff. Look at whether the dog is moving closer or trying to create distance. And once you do that, tail wagging becomes much easier to understand. Not because it has one meaning, but because you finally stop forcing it to have one. A soft body can make the wag feel welcoming. A stiff body can make the same movement feel uncertain. A relaxed face can support the idea of comfort. A tense face can change the entire message. A dog that freely approaches you is telling a different story from a dog that stays frozen while the tail moves. And this is why the next layer matters so much. Because even when you read the body correctly, you still need one more thing. You need the situation. The same dog, the same tail, the same movement can mean something different depending on what is happening around it. The situation changes everything, because a tail wag never happens in a blank space. It happens somewhere, with someone, at a certain distance, under a certain kind of pressure, in a moment that already has meaning. And if you ignore the situation, you can still misread the dog even if you notice the body. A dog wagging its tail when you come home is not in the same situation as a dog wagging its tail when a stranger bends over it. A dog wagging near its food bowl is not in the same situation as a dog wagging at the park when another dog is staring at it. A dog wagging while choosing to approach you is not in the same situation as a dog wagging while backed into a corner. The movement may look similar, but the moment is not the same. And dogs respond to moments. Not just to people, not just to objects, not just to one signal. They respond to the whole situation around them. This is why context matters so much. When your dog greets you at the door, the tail may be part of a familiar routine. Your dog knows you. Your dog recognizes the sound, the smell, the pattern, the return. The body may be loose. The movement may be wiggly. The dog may curve toward you, move freely, and re-engage with you in a relaxed way. In that context, the tail may fit with happiness and social excitement, but take a similar tail movement and place it in a different situation. A stranger is reaching down. The dog is on a leash. The dog has limited room to move away. The person is leaning over the dog's head. The dog's body is still. The mouth closes. The ears move back. The tail continues to wag. Now the same general idea, a moving tail sits inside a completely different picture. And if you only keep the old label, wagging means friendly, you may miss what the moment is really asking you to see. The dog may not be saying, "Come closer." The dog may be saying, "I am trying to handle this." That is a very different message. Another common example is when a dog meets another dog. People see both tails moving and assume the meeting is going well. But two wagging tails do not automatically mean two relaxed dogs. One dog may be loose and curved. The other may be high, stiff, forward, and tense. One may be trying to create space. The other may be pushing in. One may be curious. The other may be overwhelmed. And if you only notice that both tails are moving, you miss the actual conversation happening between the dogs. The same thing can happen with food, toys, doorways, tight spaces, children, guests, loud noises, or anything that raises the emotional level of the moment. A tail wag near a favorite person may mean one thing. A tail wag when the dog is crowded may mean another. A tail wag when the dog is waiting for dinner may show anticipation. A tail wag when the dog is being stared at may show tension. A tail wag when the dog is free to move away may mean something different from a tail wag when the dog has no easy exit. That is why one of the best questions you can ask is not only, "What is the tail doing?" but, "What is happening around the dog? Who is nearby? How close are they? Is someone reaching? Is the dog on leash? Is there another dog? Is there food involved?" Is the dog tired? Is the dog surprised? Is the dog choosing the interaction? Or is the interaction being pushed onto the dog? These questions do not make reading dogs complicated. They make it more honest, because no behavior exists by itself. A wagging tail at the front door, a wagging tail at the vet, a wagging tail around a stranger, a wagging tail near a child, a wagging tail during play, a wagging tail during pressure. They may all involve movement, but they are not all the same message. And this is where a lot of people accidentally make dogs harder to understand. They look for one universal translation. Tail wagging equals happy. Yawning equals tired. Licking equals love. Rolling over equals wanting belly rubs. But dog behavior usually does not work that way. Meaning is built from pattern, body plus context, movement plus timing, signal plus situation. That is what gives the behavior its real shape. And once you understand that, tail wagging becomes much more interesting. Because now you are not just asking what the dog is doing, you are asking why the dog is doing it here, with this person, in this moment. That question is where the deeper understanding begins. Because sometimes a wagging tail belongs to a dog that feels one clear thing. But many times, it belongs to a dog feeling more than one thing at once. This is another place people misunderstand dogs. They expect the emotion to be simple. Happy or scared, friendly or aggressive, relaxed or stressed, comfortable or uncomfortable. But real behavior is often more mixed than that. A dog can be curious and nervous at the same time. A dog can want to approach and still feel unsure. A dog can recognize someone and still feel overwhelmed by the way that person is moving. A dog can be excited and still need space. A dog can be interested in another dog but not ready for close contact. A dog can wag its tail while trying to decide what the next move should be. This is why mixed emotion matters, because a wagging tail often appears in moments where the dog is activated, but not fully settled. The dog is not blank. The dog is not calm. The dog is not necessarily unhappy, but the dog is also not automatically relaxed. Something is happening inside. There is interest. There is energy. There may be pressure. There may be uncertainty. There may be conflict. And the tail is part of that emotional movement. Think about a dog that sees a visitor walk into the house. The dog may know this person. The dog may be excited. The tail may start moving. But if the visitor immediately reaches down, talks loudly, makes direct eye contact, and enters the dog's space too fast, the emotional picture can change. Now the dog may still be excited, but also unsure, still interested, but also pressured, still wagging, but no longer fully soft. That is mixed emotion. And if the person only reads the excitement part, they may miss the uncertainty part. That is usually where mistakes happen. Not because the dog gave no signals, but because people picked the signal they wanted to see. They saw the wag. They saw the part that looked friendly, and they ignored the parts that looked conflicted. This is especially important with dogs that are social but sensitive. Some dogs genuinely want connection. They like people. They are curious. They may wag their tails when approached, but that does not mean they want every kind of touch from every person in every moment. A dog can like people and still dislike being leaned over. A dog can enjoy attention and still need a slower greeting. A dog can wag at a child and still feel uncomfortable when the child grabs or hugs. A dog can stand near you and still not be ready for your hand on its head. That is not contradiction. That is normal emotional complexity. And when you understand that, you stop forcing the dog into one simple label. You stop saying, "He is friendly, so he must want this," or "She is wagging, so she must be fine." Instead, you begin to read the moment as it unfolds. Is the dog becoming softer? Or tighter? Is the dog staying engaged? Or trying to pause? Is the dog moving closer? Or only staying because there is nowhere else to go? Is the tail part of a loose body? Or the only part that is moving? That is how you read mixed emotion. You watch the direction the dog's body is going, not just the fact that one signal is present, because dogs often show uncertainty through small contradictions. The tail moves, but the body leans back. The dog looks toward you, but the head turns away. The dog stays near, but the mouth closes. The dog approaches, then pauses. The dog sniffs your hand, then steps back. The dog wags, but does not soften. Those contradictions are not random. They are information. They show you that the dog is not in a simple state. It may be considering. It may be unsure. It may be trying to gather information. It may be deciding whether closeness is safe. And if you can recognize that early, you can respond better. You can slow down. You can give space. You can let the dog choose. You can stop turning a mixed signal into a forced interaction. That is one of the biggest benefits of reading tail wagging correctly. It does not make you suspicious of every dog. It makes you more patient with what the dog is actually showing. And patience is often what allows the dog to become more relaxed. Because when a dog's uncertainty is respected, it does not have to escalate. It does not have to make the signal louder. It does not have to move from subtle body tension into avoidance, barking, growling, or snapping. The dog gets to be understood earlier, and that is the real value. Not fear, not overthinking, just better timing, better observation, a better response to what is actually in front of you. But there is one more reason people miss all of this, and it may be the deepest mistake in the whole topic. People do not just read the tail too quickly. They read it through human emotion. They see a wagging tail, and they translate it like a human smile. They see movement, and they think happiness. They see approach, and they think affection. They see energy, and they think friendliness. And because that interpretation feels warm, familiar, and comforting, they stop questioning it. This is not because people are careless. Most people misread dogs because they love them. They want the behavior to mean something good. They want the dog to like them. They want the moment to be friendly. They want to believe the signal is simple. So when the dog wags its tail, the human brain fills in the most emotionally satisfying answer. It likes me. It is happy. It wants attention. It wants to be touched. It is okay. Sometimes that answer is correct. But sometimes it is incomplete. And an incomplete answer can still lead you in the wrong direction. Because dogs are not tiny humans wearing fur. They do not use body language in exactly the same way people use facial expressions or social gestures. A wagging tail is not the same as a person smiling. And even with people, a smile does not always mean comfort. People smile when they are happy. But they can also smile when they are nervous, polite, uncertain, pressured, or trying to avoid conflict. So even the human comparison is not as simple as it looks. But with dogs, the gap is even bigger. Their signals are built from posture, movement, tension, orientation, distance, and timing. A tail wag is part of that system, not a direct translation into one human word. And this is where the mistake becomes very understandable. People are not trying to ignore the dog. They are trying to connect with the dog, but they connect through the meaning they already know. They see the wag as love. They see the wag as happiness. They see the wag as permission. And once they decide that, they stop observing. That is why one of the most important skills in reading dogs is emotional humility. The ability to say, I may not know what this means yet, not, the tail is wagging so I know, but, the tail is wagging so I need to read the rest. That small change protects the dog from being misunderstood. And it protects the person from responding too quickly. Because the goal is not to take warmth out of the relationship. The goal is to stop replacing the dog's actual signals with the story we prefer. A wagging tail can still be beautiful. It can still be joyful. It can still be part of greeting, play, affection, and connection. But it deserves to be read honestly, not automatically, not through assumption, not through what we want it to mean, through what the whole dog is showing. So if there is one thing to remember from this part, it is this. The mistake is not that people care too much about their dogs. The mistake is that they translate dog behavior too quickly into human emotion. And when that happens, they do not just misunderstand the tail, they misunderstand the dog behind it. And this is why the mistake matters. Not because every wagging tail is dangerous. That is not the point. The point is that a wagging tail is not enough information by itself. And when people treat it like enough information, they can miss the signals that matter more in that moment. A dog may wag while also asking for space. A dog may wag while feeling unsure. A dog may wag while trying to avoid conflict. A dog may wag while tolerating something it does not fully enjoy. And if the person only sees the tail, they may move closer when the dog is actually asking them to slow down. This is where many misunderstandings begin. Someone reaches for the dog. The tail is moving, so they assume the dog wants touch. But the dog turns its head away. The mouth closes. The body freezes. The ears move back. The weight shifts away. The The dog may even lick its lips or blink more slowly. These signals may be small, but they are not meaningless. They are often the dog's quiet way of saying, "I am not fully comfortable. I need a little more space. I am not ready for this." But because the tail is still moving, people ignore the quieter message. They believe the wag cancels out everything else. It does not. A wagging tail does not erase tension. It does not erase stiffness. It does not erase avoidance. It does not erase the need for distance. It does not automatically turn an uncomfortable dog into a relaxed one. This is especially important when people meet dogs they do not know well. With your own dog, you may understand more of the pattern. You may know the difference between your dog's soft greeting wag and your dog's nervous, uncertain wag. You may know what your dog looks like when it is truly relaxed. But with a strange dog, you do not have that history. You do not know the dog's normal posture. You do not know its comfort level. You do not know whether it has had good or bad experiences with people reaching over it. So the safest and most respectful choice is to slow down. Let the whole dog answer, not just the tail. If the dog is loose, soft, freely approaching, and choosing contact, that tells you something. If the dog is still, tight, leaning away, turning its head, or staying just out of reach, that tells you something too. And sometimes the most respectful thing you can do is nothing. Not reach, not lean in, not force the greeting, not assume the dog wants to be touched just because the tail is moving. You give the dog a moment. You let the dog choose. You let the dog show whether it wants closeness or distance. That does not make you afraid of dogs. It makes you better at listening to them, because dogs are often communicating long before they bark, growl, snap, or pull away. Those louder signals usually come later. Before that, there are smaller signs. A pause, a turn of the head, a stiffening of the body, a closed mouth, a backward weight shift, a tail that moves while the rest of the dog does not soften. Those small signs are easy to miss if you have already decided that the dog is happy. And that is the real risk of the tail wagging myth. It makes people stop looking too soon. They think the answer has already arrived. The tail is moving, so the dog must be fine. But the better reader waits for the rest of the sentence. Because the tail is not the answer. It is the beginning of the question. What is the body doing? What is the face doing? What is the dog moving toward? What is the dog moving away from? Is the dog softening? Or becoming tighter? Is the dog choosing the interaction? Or only tolerating it? Is the dog relaxed? Or simply activated? That is how you read the moment more honestly. And this is not just about safety. It is also about trust. Because when you read a dog correctly, you stop forcing your meaning onto its behavior. You stop saying, "You are wagging, so you must want this." And you start saying, "I see the tail, but I am going to listen to the rest of you too." That is a very different relationship. It gives the dog more room to be understood. It gives the person more time to respond well. And it makes the interaction calmer, clearer, and safer for both sides. This is why tail wagging should be treated as a clue, not a conclusion. A clue points you towards something, but it does not finish the story. If you find one clue, you do not close the case. You look for the next one. The tail gives you the first piece. The body gives you the second. The face gives you the third. The distance gives you the fourth. The situation ties them together. Only then do you begin to understand what the dog may actually be feeling. And even then, you stay humble. Because reading dogs is not about pretending you can know everything perfectly. It is about becoming careful enough to not assume too quickly. A wagging tail can mean joy. It can mean excitement. It can mean anticipation. It can mean tension. It can mean uncertainty. It can mean social interest. It can mean conflict. It can mean the dog is trying to figure out what happens next. That is why the tail should never be read alone. It belongs to a body, and the body belongs to a moment. And the moment gives the signal its meaning. So the next time you see a dog wagging its tail, do not ignore it. Notice it, but do not stop there. Look at the dog's face. Is it soft or tense? Look at the mouth. Is it loose or closed? Look at the ears. Are they relaxed, pinned back, or sharply alert? Look at the body. Is it wiggly and curved, or still and stiff? Look at the weight. Is the dog leaning in, leaning away, or frozen in place? Look at the distance. Is the dog choosing to come closer, or trying to keep space? Look at the situation. Is this a familiar greeting, a pressured interaction, a strange dog, a tight space, a food moment, a leash greeting, or a sudden approach? All of these things matter, because when you read them together, the tale starts to make sense. Not as a simple label, but as part of a pattern, and that pattern is what the dog is really showing you. This is the shift that changes everything. You stop asking, is the tail wagging? And you start asking, what kind of dog is wagging? A soft dog? A tinsito? A playful dog? An unsure dog? A relaxed dog? A conflicted dog? A dog moving toward connection? Or a dog trying to manage pressure? That question makes you slower, but it also makes you more accurate. And with dogs, slower is often better. Because many dogs do not need us to react faster. They need us to notice better. They need us to stop rushing into the meaning we like. They need us to read what is actually there. The tail, the body, the distance, the timing, the pressure, the choice, the whole dog. Because the truth is, the tail was never meant to carry the entire message by itself. We made it carry too much. We turned it into a shortcut, a symbol, a simple answer. But to the dog, it was always part of something larger. A movement inside a body, a signal inside a situation, a clue inside a moment. And once you understand that, you will never look at tail wagging the same way again. Not because it becomes scary, but because it becomes more meaningful. You can still enjoy the happy wags, the loose, full-body greetings, the soft, wiggly excitement when your dog sees you, the beautiful moments where the whole dog seems to say, I am glad you are here. Those moments are real. But now, you can also recognize when the wag is different, when it is tighter, when it is faster but not softer, when the body is still, when the dog is unsure, when the situation is too much, when the tail is moving, but the rest of the dog is asking for space. That is the difference between seeing a dog and reading a dog. Seeing is quick. Reading takes attention. Seeing says, the tail is wagging. Reading asks, what is the dog saying? And that is the whole point of this video. A wagging tail is not a promise that a dog is happy. It is not automatic permission to approach. It is not a fixed emotion. It is not the whole answer. It is a clue. A clue about what may be happening inside the dog. A clue that only becomes clear when you read it with the body, the face, the distance, and the situation around it. So the next time a dog wags its tail, let that be the beginning of your observation, not the end of it. Because the people who understand dogs best are not the people who memorize one signal. They are the people who keep looking after the obvious signal appears. They notice what others miss. They slow down when others rush in. They read the whole dog, not just the moving tail. And when you do that, tail wagging becomes something much more important than a sign of happiness. It becomes a language, one you can finally begin to understand,